It hits different when you stop begging to be seen. Let me tell you a story. Picture this. You're at a party, loud music, fake smiles, everyone trying way too hard. You're there too, but something's changed. You're not laughing extra loud. You're not posting a selfie to prove you're having a good time. You're just still, calm, watching. And then you notice something. People keep glancing at you, wondering, whispering, like, what's up with him? But not in a bad way, in a curious, uncomfortable way, like your stillness disrupted their whole performance. That's what happens when you stop trying to be chosen, when you stop performing for the crowd starts noticing, because in a world addicted to attention, the one who pulls back becomes the main event. There's a line by Blaise Pascal that hits deep. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Because being quiet, being still, being unbothered, that's real power. It makes people uncomfortable, not because you're doing anything to them, but because your stillness reflects their chaos. Your peace exposes their noise. And now suddenly, you're not entertainment. You're an event. See, in this performance-addicted world, the one who doesn't perform becomes mysterious. And mystery, that's magnetic. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But how many people actually do that? How many people are brave enough to sit with their own essence? Not curated, not filtered, not polished, just real. Because the moment you stop trying to be what they want, you become what they never expected. You start radiating from within, not to impress, just to exist fully. And ironically, that's when the world leans in closer. Nietzsche called it the power of self-overcoming. The moment you stop trying to win in someone else's game and start crafting your own rules, your own code, your own rhythm, you become rare. And what's rare is remembered. We live in a time where attention is currency, where everyone's screaming just to be seen, but there's a higher level, a cleaner frequency, presence, that grounded, untouchable presence that says, I'm good with or without the spotlight. And the moment you step into that energy, people start orbiting around you without even realizing it. Not because you chase them, but because you stop chasing at all. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his Meditations, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And the same applies here. Waste no more energy trying to convince the world you're valuable. Be valuable. Quietly, powerfully. Let your silence do the talking. Let your alignment echo louder than any rant ever could, because when you stop explaining yourself, you start defining yourself. When you stop showing off, you start showing up. When you stop begging to be seen, you start seeing yourself. And here's the wild part. The world treats you different when you treat you different. They mirror your energy, your standards, your silence. Suddenly, the ones who ignored you before are paying attention. Not because you yelled louder, but because you turned the volume down on needing them. That's the paradox. The more you chase, the more they run. The more you pull back, the more they lean in, because desperation repels. But self-trust attracts. You're not here to entertain, you're here to exist. Fully, freely, unapologetically. And here's where it gets deeper. You ever heard of Carl Jung? Swiss psychoanalyst, the real deal, shadow whisperer. He talked about something most people today scroll right past. Individuation, not information, not validation, individuation, becoming whole, not perfect, not polished, not praised, whole. And here's the plot twist. Wholeness isn't about adding more to yourself. It's about stripping away everything that isn't you. The roles, the masks, the noise, the versions of yourself you crafted just to be accepted. Individuation isn't about becoming what the world wants. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. It's not about saying, look at me. It's about saying, I see me, and that's enough. And in a world addicted to more followers, more applause, more attention, being content with yourself, that's rebellion. That's rare. That's power. You become unattainable, not because you're playing games, but because you finally understand that peace is not found in chasing. It's found in rooting. See, when you stop performing for love, stop auditioning for belonging, stop overexposing your soul for validation, you don't become cold, you become real. You don't become arrogant, you become grounded. You don't become silent to punish, you become silent because there's nothing left to prove. That energy, it hits different. You're not the loudest in the room anymore, but you are the one people feel the most. Because here's the truth. Most people bleed energy. They spill it everywhere. They check in every 5 minutes. They're always online, always available, always explaining. They share their soul on Instagram stories and wonder why they feel invisible. But when you pull back without making a scene, when you don't post the cryptic quote, when you don't beg to be understood, when you simply become unavailable, that silence, it echoes. It vibrates in the room after you leave. It plays back in people's heads at night. It whispers into their overthinking minds. Wait, why aren't they chasing me? They reread your old text. They scroll through your page like archaeologists, not looking for gossip, looking for a trace, because something in your absence is louder than their entire performance, and they hate it. But they can't look away. Why? Because you're no longer a performer in their show. You've become a mirror, and most people, they hate mirrors. Because when you stop showing up to entertain, you leave them with only themselves, their own noise, their own insecurity, their own lack of depth. And now they have to sit in that room with the version of themselves they were always distracting themselves from. That's when they realize you weren't needy, you were overflowing, you weren't desperate, you were devoted, you weren't chasing, you were giving. And now that you've reclaimed that energy, now that you've turned the faucet off, they feel the void. And here's the poetic part. You're not mad, you're not bitter, you're not plotting some silent revenge. You're just done. Done over-explaining your soul to people who barely read the caption. Done showing up fully in spaces where no one met you halfway. Done translating your truth into a language they never intended to learn. You've chosen your peace over their presence. And that isn't weakness, that's wisdom. Because not every door deserves to stay open. Not every call needs a reply. Not every "we need to talk" deserves your breath. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes growth looks like disappearing. Sometimes detachment isn't passive. It's sacred. But you are finally understanding that you are not required to exhaust yourself for the comfort of others. You don't need to keep proving your worth to people who only see your reflection when you're shining for them. You are not a flashlight. You are the sun. You radiate with or without applause. You rise with or without witnesses. So when people ask, why are you so distant now? Let them wonder. Let them sit with their own discomfort, because your silence now isn't a cry for help. It's a statement of arrival. You've arrived in your own self-respect, your own rhythm, your own life. No need to scream it. Like Lao Tzu said, those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. And those who really feel you, they'll never need an announcement. Your presence was loud when it was here and louder when it left. Let that be enough. Let's talk about something raw for a second. Most people, they don't even realize how desperate they've become. Desperate for approval, desperate to be seen, desperate to be liked, reposted, validated, clapped for. They don't call it desperation though, they call it sharing. They call it being expressive. They call it staying connected. But let's be real, they're just reacting. Reacting to silence, reacting to rejection, reacting to not being chosen. You ever watch someone online who posts 24/7? Not because they're creating, but because they're begging to be felt, begging to matter, begging to not be invisible. But the minute you stop doing that, the minute you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop entertaining, you break the loop. You shatter the rhythm they've gotten used to. Now they don't know where to place you. You're not playing their game anymore. You're not on their chessboard. You become that silent presence in the room, the one people feel before they notice, the one who doesn't try to impress, yet leaves everyone wondering, the one who doesn't speak much, but when they do, it's sharp like truth. David Foster Wallace once said, "You'll stop worrying what people think about you when you realize how seldom they actually do." And when that hits you, not just in your head, but in your bones, you unlock something different. You stop trying to mean something to everyone. You stop trying to matter because you finally matter to yourself. You stop performing for the world and start aligning with your soul. You move different, you speak less, you protect your energy like it's sacred currency, because it is, and suddenly the world sees you differently. Not because you became louder, but because you became still. There's something haunting about a person who doesn't need the spotlight, something unforgettable about someone who isn't trying to be unforgettable. That stillness, that's not emptiness, that's wholeness. When you stop reacting to life, you start responding to it. You go from running on survival mode to walking in your purpose. You stop saying, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I like me in this moment?" You stop asking, "How can I impress them?" and start living, "How can I stay loyal to my own peace?" Don Miguel Ruiz called it the second agreement: don't take anything personally. Because the moment you do, you hand your power over. When someone ignores you and it ruins your day, they win, not because they're powerful, but because you made them your mirror. But when you become your own mirror, you stop flinching when others distort you. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to post it. You don't need to defend it. They'll feel it. Growth has a scent. Peace has a posture. Self-respect has a silence. James Clear said it perfectly. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your emotional system, your internal game, is either rooted in "look at me" or "I see me." When it shifts to the second, they feel the change, and they'll say it. They'll say, "You've changed." And this time, you won't deny it. You'll smile, you'll breathe, you'll say, "Yeah, I have." I'm not performing anymore. I'm not stretching myself thin to fit into boxes I didn't build. I'm not faking chill when I'm angry. I'm not chasing closure from people who never even gave me clarity. I'm grounded now, rooted, whole, still. I don't need attention. I don't need to be the loudest one in the room. I'm okay being misunderstood if it means being authentic. I'm okay being underestimated if it means being at peace, because finally, I'm home in myself, with myself, and that version of me, the one who is always over-explaining, over-giving, overextending, yeah, I'm letting them go. Not out of bitterness, but out of love. Real love for who I've become. So, if this hits you somewhere deep, let it sit there. Let it marinate. Let it start undoing the part of you that thought you had to beg to be chosen. Because here, this space right here, it's for the real ones. It's for the quiet disruptors. The ones who aren't loud, but always felt. The ones who choose stillness over spectacle. The ones who walked away from needing to be needed and finally felt free.